Order, please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, Dottie, any correspondence?
Yes, I have correspondence. We have a letter from the Shelter Island Association concerning zoning code amendments. A letter from Brian Sherman, Superintendent of Highways, requesting permission to perform drainage maintenance in Hollow Shores and Shelter Island Heights. An email from Sandra O'Connor concerning canteen trucks at construction sites. A letter from Brian Sherman, Superintendent of Highways, requesting permission to auction 3 vehicles through municipal. A letter from David Austin concerning his application for membership on the Zoning Board of Appeals. An email from Rayhan Doganowski concerning security at Glenawickus Airport. An email from Matt Williamson applying to be considered for a position on the Water Quality Advisory Board, and recommendations to the town board for the zoning code review from the ZBA.
Thank you. We'll do the supervisor's financial report for the month of September. We started the month with $33,518,319.81. We took in $484,951.89 and spent $88,619.31, leaving us with a total balance of $33,114, 33 million, 100, all right, 33,114,652.39. Doesn't look right.
That's not what mine says.
What is yours? It doesn't look right, doesn't it? You have yours in?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that again.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll start again. We started the month with $18,496,923.47. We took in $487,645. We spent $877,904.06, leaving us with a balance of $18,106,644.41. And we have invested in our class accounts $7,226,962.31. And that's through the month of September. Thanks, Todd.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay, at this time, we're going to set some hearings on Waterways applications. Jim, you want to get us started?
Sure. Whereas Burton White, parentheses, Nelson White, Shelter Island Trust, close parentheses, 34 South Monantic Road, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to install a mooring in the narrows of West Neck Creek, approximately 115 feet off of the applicant's property to the northwest at a location designated as latitude 41.055104 degrees north and latitude 72.354513 degrees west. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board hereby calls for a public hearing to be held at 4:40 p.m. prevailing time on the 12th day of November, 2021, for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed installation. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Whereas Charles Dunn, 18-20 Tuttle Drive, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to install a mooring in Cockles Harbor at a location designated as latitude 41.07428 degrees north and latitude 72.29142 degrees west. Said mooring location was formerly occupied by the Robertson C2551 mooring. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board is hereby calls for a public hearing to be held at 4:42 p.m. prevailing time on the 12th day of November, 2021, in the Shelter Island Town Hall, Shelter Island, New York, for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or opposition to proposed installation. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas Sylvie Van Heilenbroek and Peter Vanderbruggen, 8 Rocky Point Road, have petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to install a mooring in the West Neck Bay, approximately 125 feet northwest of the W3543 Langham mooring and designated as location latitude 41.065132 degrees north and longitude 72.363774 degrees west. Now therefore be resolved that the town board hereby calls for a public hearing to be held at 4:40 p.m. prevailing time on the 12th day of November 2021 in the Shelter Island Town Hall, Shelter Island, New York, for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed installation. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas Susan Weber, 5 Winthrop LLC, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to install a mooring in Deering Harbor at a location designated as latitude 41.0849 degrees north and longitude 72.34949 degrees west. Said mooring location was formerly occupied by the D3190 Curl mooring. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 90-5 of the code of the town of Shelter Island, the town board hereby calls for a public hearing to be held at 4:48 p.m. prevailing time on the 12th day of November 2021 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed installation. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Moving to appointments, whereas a vacancy exists on the Zoning Board of Appeals, and whereas the town board has advertised for and interviewed applicants, now therefore be it resolved that Thomas Graffinino is hereby appointed to serve as a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term to expire on July 8th, 2027. So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Whereas a vacancy exists on the Water Quality Improvement Advisory Board, and whereas the town board has advertised for and interviewed applicants, now therefore be it resolved that Elizabeth Bishop is hereby appointed to serve as a member of the Water Quality Improvement Advisory Board for a term to expire on February 2nd, 2022. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Whereas a vacancy exists on the Water Advisory Committee, and whereas the town board has advertised for and interviewed applicants, now therefore be it resolved that Lisa Shaw is hereby appointed to serve as a member of the Water Advisory Committee for a term to expire on April 2nd, 2023. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas a vacancy exists as chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals, now therefore be it resolved that Phil DiOrio is hereby appointed to serve as chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term to run continuously with his appointment as member of the Zoning Board of Appeals, which is July 8, 2026. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Be resolved that supervisor here is hereby authorized and directed to credit the reimbursement checks in the amount of $20.08 and $12.05 received from the quill.com to the A1355.484 assessor's office and miscellaneous accounts. So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $6,331 from the 2021 A4540.484 EMS office and miscellaneous account to SCM Products, Inc., 60 Plant Avenue, Hauppauge, New York, for the 2021 annual maintenance contract for the EMS computer program. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the town board work session scheduled to be held at 1 p.m. on Tuesday, November 9th, 2021 is hereby rescheduled to be held at 1 p.m. on Wednesday, November 10th, 2021. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $48,828 from the A9025.800 LoSAP account to Glens Falls National Bank and Trust Company, care of Penflex Actuarial Services, LLC, 50 Century Hill Drive, Suite 3, Latham, New York, 12110, for the 2020 audit of the Penflex Service Award Program for the EMS Department. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Whereas the superintendent of highways advertised roll-up doors up for auction, and whereas no bids were received on said doors, and whereas the superintendent of highways has requested permission to dispose of advertised auction items, now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the superintendent of highway to dispose of said items at the local metal recycling facility. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas sealed bids for disposal of municipal solid waste and for equipment to be used for disposal of municipal solid waste and tires generated in the town of Shelter Island. And whereas National Waste Services, Bay Shore, New York, was the sole bidder. First 2 years, non-recyclable MSW, 0.835 cents, $167 a ton. Tires, 0.175 cents, $350 a ton. Second 2-year option, 83.5. It stays the same for second option. So it's for 4 years at the same price. Whereas the Commissioner of Public Works and Town Board have reviewed the bid, now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board hereby award such bid to the National Waste Services LLC for the aforementioned prices. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized and directed to advertise for sealed bids for the purchase of fuel oil for the medical building, highway department building, and the Legion Hall for the year 2022. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized and directed to advertise for sealed bids for the purchase of propane for the police department town hall complex, Hall of Justice, 40 North Ferry Road, and the ambulance building for the year 2022. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Be it resolved that supervisors hereby authorized and directed to return the amount of $280 to 7 on shelter for 4 unused parking permits for the year 2021. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $52,452 from the Police Department A3120.491 Police Department Contracts account to the town of Shelter Southold for the dispatch payment due for the year 2021. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $1,265 to Anne Marie Sedio from the 2021 A1330.414 Receiver of Taxes Postage Account for the purchase of stamps. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the superintendent of highways was authorized and directed to advertise for sealed bids for precast cement drainage products. And whereas Suffolk Precast, Calverton, New York, was the sole bidder at the amount of $14,820.80. And whereas the superintendent of highways has reviewed the bid submitted and recommended that the town board authorize the awarding of said bid to Suffolk Precast. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board does hereby award said bid for precast cement drainage products to Suffolk Precast, Calverton, New York for the aforementioned amount. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Whereas the Commissioner of Public Works was authorized to advertise for bids for the purchase of 1 prefabricated restroom trailer for Crescent Beach. And whereas the sole bidder was Comforts of Home Services Incorporated, 410 Rothbourne Avenue, Aurora, Illinois, 60506 for the projected price of $80,580. And whereas the Commissioner of Public Works and the Town Board have reviewed said proposal, now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board hereby awards the bid of said restroom trailer to Comforts of Home Services Incorporated at 410 Rothbourne Avenue, Aurora, Illinois, 6056 for the project bid of $80,880. And I just want to mention that is covered under our grant for a much higher amount, so that, you know, that this comes in well under what we put in for the grant monies. That's a New York State, I think, Parks and Recreation grant, if I'm not mistaken. It's a 50-50 bid. And I think the original bid went in for around $230,000, of which we were responsible for half of that. So this comes in much under that as well. And by the way, that's when we put in for a permanent structure, not for a trailer. So that's why the grant went in at a much higher rate. This is for something that can be moved on site and moved off site in the off season. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas Anne Marie and Benedict Norris were awarded a conditional rebate of up to $8,000 by the Water Quality Improvement Advisory Board, WQIAB, and whereas the Norrises have filed a revised septic rebate application, and whereas the WQIAB has amended said $8,000 to be $10,000. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Resolution 463-2021 is hereby amended to state that the WQIAB approves the applicant for a conditional rebate of up to $10,000 in additional cost upon completion of the project and subject to the applicant's compliance with and completion of all terms and conditions of the conditional rebate agreement. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution shall be given to the WQIAB and the building department. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas Audrey and Campbell Myers, 2 Bay Avenue, have petitioned the town of Shelter Island for a wetlands permit for renovation and expansion of existing single-family home, construction of a proposed swimming pool, pool patio, accessory structure, including garage, pool cabana, and attached storage shed, outdoor kitchen and fireplace. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 129-7 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, a public hearing will be held at 4:50 p.m. prevailing time on the 12th day of November, 2021 in the Shelter Island Town Hall, Shelter Island, New York, for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed application. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Whereas filming permit number 76 was issued on August 23rd, 2021 to Luckiest Girl Alive, LLC, Mike O'Neill, for filming at North Ferry Landing Walkway behind 12 Summerfield Place and North Ferry on August 24, 2021. And whereas a filming cleanup deposit of $1,000 was paid for said filming, and whereas the Commissioner of Public Works has determined that no part of the deposit was utilized, now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to return the deposit amount of $1,000 to Mr. Michael O'Neill, Luckiest Girl Alive, LLC, 297 Bond Street, Brooklyn, New York, 11231. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Whereas the town of Shelter Island and the county of Suffolk wish to be able to partner for the purposes of jointly acquiring property for open space. Whereas the general terms of such cooperation must be defined prior to proceeding with any individual project. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Shelter Island hereby authorizes the Community Preservation Fund Advisory Board to enter into agreements with the county of Suffolk to jointly purchase land. And be it further resolved that with regard to any such joint agreements, the town of Shelter Island and the county of Suffolk shall each contribute an equal 50% share towards the acquisition price. And be it further resolved that the town of Shelter Island shall manage any such property acquired jointly with the county of Suffolk, and that the county of Suffolk shall have no actual or financial responsibility for the maintenance of such property. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the supervisor is authorized to enter into a contract extension with the Taylor's Island Foundation on the same terms as the current license, extending for the same for an additional 5 years. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the Phase 1 environmental study has been completed of the town property at 12 South Ferry Road, and whereas further study is necessary prior to consideration of the site for development for affordable housing, now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to proceed with the Phase 2 environmental study and to enter into a contract for such study. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the state of New York has mandated the institution of the Juneteenth holiday, and whereas the town of Shelter Island wishes to ensure that it continues a high level of service to the public, now therefore be it resolved that the town of Shelter Island shall observe the Juneteenth holiday beginning in 2022, and that town offices other than highway and police department shall be closed, and all non-union employees are not required to report to work. And be it further resolved that in the event that Juneteenth falls on a Saturday or Sunday, such holidays shall be observed on the following Monday. And be it further resolved that the town will no longer observe Lincoln's birthday as a holiday, the same having been absorbed by President's Day, and that all non-union employees shall be required to work on that day. And be it further resolved that union contracts shall be unaffected by this resolution. So moved.
Second.
Just discussion that's something we have to negotiate with the two bargaining units
Right.
going forward. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Whereas the town clerk would like to start accepting credit card payments in order to accommodate people of Shelter Island. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Shelter Island may accept credit card payments for any fees due to the town. And be it further resolved that the town may charge a service fee for those paying by credit card to the extent necessary to offset the expense to the town of offering the additional service. And be it further resolved that the supervisor is authorized to enter into any contract with a credit card issuer, credit bureau, or credit service company in order to implement this program. And be it further resolved that pursuant to New York State law, the town clerk shall develop and publish a credit card acceptance policy. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
This resolution is for the East End Regional Intervention Court. Whereas pursuant to section 170.15 of the Criminal Procedure Law, then acting Deputy Chief Administrator Judge Joseph Trificanti Jr. on February 19, 2004, created the Drug Court Hub, consisting of the town and village courts for the towns of East Hampton, Shelter Island, Southold, Southampton, and Riverhead. And whereas said Drug Court Hub has been designated as part of the East End Regional Intervention Court pursuant to CLP 170.15-4, and whereas the Honorable Andrew A. Krecker, District Administrative Judge, has assigned East Hampton Town Court Justice Stephen Tulisky, Shelter Island Town Court Justice Mary Faith Westervelt, Southampton Town Court Justice Karen Sartain, and Southold Town Court Justice Eileen Powers to serve as East End Regional Intervention Court Justices for the Drug Court Hub. And whereas pursuant to section 106 of the Uniform Justice Court Act, the towns of East Hampton, Shelter Island, Southampton, and Southold should designate town or village justices to serve in the East End Regional Intervention Court, including the Drug Court Hub, and adjudicate matters arising with territorial jurisdiction of said court. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Shelter Island hereby consents to town justices Stephen Tulisky, Mary Faith Westervelt, Karen Sartain, and Eileen Powers serving as East End Regional Intervention Court Justices for the Drug Court Hub at no additional compensation. And be it further resolved that the town clerk is hereby directed to forward a certified copy of this resolution to the Honorable Andrew A. Krecker, District Administrative Judge, 400 Carlton Avenue, Central Islip, New York. The Honorable Stephen Tulisky, East Hampton Town Court. Honorable Mary Faith Westervelt, Shelter Island Town Court. The Honorable Karen Sartain, Southampton Town Court. And the Honorable Eileen A. Powers, Southold Town Court. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I have the budget transfers for 2021, which we start to do more of as we get towards the end of the year. Be it resolved that the following 2021 budget transfers are hereby approved. I've got over a page of budget transfers. I'm not going to read, but if anyone is interested, they can get a copy of this resolution from the town clerk's office. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Be it resolved that 2021 general claims numbered 1589 through 1712 in the amount of $90,221.03. 2021 highway claims numbered 194 through 205 in the amount of $14,925.78. And 2021 West Neck water claims numbered 39 through 40 in the amount of $897.20. And Community Preservation Fund claim numbered 18 for $130 are hereby approved for payment as audited, and the supervisor and or any town board member is hereby authorized and directed to sign the approval for payment of same. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, at this time, we're going to recess the meeting for a public hearing on the community development grant funds. Dot, you want to read that?
Yes, in 2022, the town of Shelter Island expects to receive approximately $13,570 in federal community development block grant funds. These funds may be used and have been previously used for a variety of projects to be selected by local officials. Eligible activities include housing rehabilitation, public services, public improvements, and facilities administration and planning.
Okay, this is like a standard amount we've always gotten, and we've tried to put it towards ADA compliance or other issues where we're eligible to use it. In speaking with Barbara Bloom, who handles this for us, and her being in touch with the community development block grant people, they feel we should really do a little more homework and apply for some real money, for some significant, grants. There's a tremendous amount of money available, and we should be trying to take advantage of it. So, which we will be doing. But this money right now, we're recommending that we try to finish the handicapped access at the Legion Hall with it. I think we need it for part of that. And then we're going to use some of it for the either the police or the Justice Hall.
Yeah, I think
ADA.
I talked to Barbara about this yesterday, and I think that the grant that's open right now, we're going to try and use that
To
for
finish.
Justice Hall.
Okay.
So I mean the Legion Hall, so that it opens it up for some other things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next year. And she and I started to go over some things. You were about to say something, Jim. Did you want to?
No, I just said the community center across the way. We hope that after early November, mid-November, by the time Veterans Day is over, that we can start beginning work over there. As most of you know, that building over there now is called the Community Center, Shelter Island Community Center. The Legion it's no longer the Legion or the Youth Center, it's the Community Center. The Legion just happens to be located in the basement. The last thing that we really have to do inside that building, remember, a lot of work went on last year with replacement of windows and getting rid of the ceiling and insulating the entire place, and a lot of electrical work and good work that was done in there. The last part of it is the front door, the steps, which are in bad shape, and the eaves that hang over the front of the building. So those are up there by a prayer. So we would like to take the money that was designated last year for that purpose. We have money set aside for that purposes, and we hope to get that done during that window of end of November, December, prior to January 1st of 2022. Eventually what will happen too is we'll have an ADA walkway which will come up there, so that if we get voting, and we have voting situations where rather than use the school gymnasium, we can use the community center, we'll be able to easily get people in and out of that building, whether in a wheelchair or handicapped in some way. But as Jerry would say, we've been thinking too small on block grants, and we need to think much bigger. We're taking lessons from our people on the South Fork and what they're asking for, obviously much bigger towns, but we have a tremendous amount of work to be done in the two buildings that lie north of here, both Justice Hall and Police Headquarters. They are old buildings that were built back in the 1930s that do not have access, ADA access, and there are other requirements that we need to do in terms of bathrooms, hallways, and things of that nature. So we've been slowly but surely working on security measures in Justice Hall, but now we need to physically work on the buildings. Remember, we just finished all the brick pointing in both of those buildings just a year ago. So we're in pretty good shape as far as infrastructure stuff. We're very aware of it, but this thing will greatly help us update the buildings to our north. So we're hoping that, we put some real time and effort into there to come up with some pretty good plans in order to be able to use those possible grant funds for that purpose. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, and the whole purpose of this public hearing is required for the community development block grants to get public input. And so, generally each year we don't have much in the way of public input, but we do have input from within town departments. So the senior center had a few ideas for potential uses down at the senior center. A water filter needs to be installed down there.
Yep.
Some carpeting and bathroom improvements, magnifiers. You had talked about that, I think, Jim, at one point, for help the elderly with sight impairments to be able to read. But the big one that we start to look at is PD and Justice Hall, we need to do the ADA compliance. So we need some architectural and design, engineering that needs to be done before we can proceed with applying for grants to get that work done, but also before we can proceed to make changes to those buildings. And so Barbara is checking with her contact, and they said that she thinks that we can use the 2022 money for architectural and engineering plans to be drawn up.
Yeah.
So that would
And
be
we did the
nice.
first part of it, where we got the study of what the needs are for the two buildings.
Right.
Okay.
And that's just going to be part of a much larger plan that Amber, Jennifer, or Hingham Bassiano, our grants writer, part-time grants writer, and Joe Fenora, our town engineer, are putting together a capital plan for the entire town. So we're going to be able to project out in our budget. We've actually started looking at that. What we're doing in 2022, what we plan on spending in 2023 and 2024. But we will carry that plan out further so that we are able to keep our assets in good condition. It's something that's been surely missed in the past. And just like any homeowner, you don't want to turn your back on infrastructure of your house and then suddenly 15, 20 years later, after not putting a nickel into the house, be hit with 3 or 4 major items that need to be repaired. In a town, this, even though small town, it all adds up with marine assets and buildings. So we own quite a bit of stuff. We need to keep up on that. So that's what that's all about.
Good, thank you. Any comments, questions? Good. Okay, we'll close that hearing and we will open the hearing on the Davies wetland application. Scott?
The application of James Davies, 66 Ram Island Drive, for a wetlands permit to remove existing stair along westerly property line, redeck existing platform at bulkhead, adjust grades, construct new retaining wall, pool, and patio, partially within the regulated area.
Okay, Jim, you have reports from?
Sure. The CAC met on September 13th and looked at both Myers and Davies applications, and I'll talk about the Davies application now at 66 Ram Island Road. The committee approved the application with the following recommendations to us here on the town board. And there were 7 of them, and perhaps Matt can address them as we move forward. The number one, move the pool 5 feet, doesn't sound like a lot, but 5 feet closer to the house to minimize excavation of adjacent vegetated buffer. So it's moving that away from the vegetated buffer. Consider moving the pool outside the 100-foot buffer. Number 2, submit a more detailed on the retaining wall, the materials for the footings and the depth. Number 3, submit vegetative plan for proposed vegetation for the 15-foot wide non-turf buffer. Number 4, submit details of bluestone stepping block installation. Number 5, add silt fence for new bluestone steps and removal of existing wood steps to reduce runoff. Number 6, what will replace wood step and vegetation? What will replace the wood steps in the vegetated buffer? And finally, number 7, add the depth of the pool to the application. We didn't know exactly how deep the pool was. And we obviously, as a CAC, are looking to look to shallower pools, not 9 foot, 8 foot, with encouraging people to go to 6 footers or something reasonable, less water, less push on the environment. So those were the things that we forwarded. That was a good month ago that we actually about 5 weeks ago that we submitted that report.
Okay, and planning board report?
Yep. I'm just going to read the salient parts, and if I miss anything, we do have Ian here to correct me. Planning board members visited the site on September 10th, 2021, and made the following observations. The stairs slated to be removed were clearly in the regulated area and in the setback. The bulkhead appeared to be in good shape. We also noticed many irrigation hoses on the property and further learned that the applicant or the previous owner had no irrigation permit. The application proposes several mitigating measures, including installation of an IA septic system that will be sufficient for both the main house and accessory building, an automatic cover for pool, salt cell disinfection, a cartridge filter, a permeable patio, and a non-turf buffer. We have learned that there were some code violations on the property resulting from the previous owner, and the new owner, Mr. Davies, has corrected. We applaud him for doing that. We also wish the irrigation system be brought into compliance with town code. This could be done by simply removing it or applying for an irrigation permit that would require the installation of a cistern to hold trucked in water. This is a very aquifer sensitive area, and we believe as good planners, we should work together with property owners and neighbors to protect this resource. With the correction of the irrigation system, we are in favor of this application.
Okay, Matt.
Thank you. I'm Matt Sherman from Sherman Engineering. I'm here with Ian McDonald, who's the project architect. We're representing James Davies and Olivia Scanlon, the property owners of this project.
I think the CAC issues.
Yeah, I can address those. We had gotten a copy of that from them, so Mark Kepling sent that over to me, so we were able to address those. All right, I got a real quick slideshow to go through. This isn't a terribly complex project, so we tried to keep this fairly simplistic. The site is about just over an acre, about an acre and a quarter, acre and an eighth. It's on Little Ram. Ram Island Drive is to the northeast. Cockles Harbor is to the southwest. The property has a really good slope to it. Up at the Ram Island Drive area, it's at about a 50-foot elevation. It's got a gradual slope down to just about the middle of the property where this building here that's in the middle of the property is a detached garage with accessory sleeping in it. That just between that and the main house is a parking area that's at about a 40-foot elevation. So we drop about 10 feet from Ram Island Drive to that parking area. Drops a little bit more where the main house is to about 34 feet in the area where the pool and the patio are being proposed to go. And you continue down and the drop off accelerates until you come down to a small bulkhead and then surface waters at Cockles Harbor. This just zooms in on the area that we're looking at, the area of interest. This here is the existing two-story dwelling. I've got some photographs of that I can show you in a second. The pool that we're talking about is right here. It's 16 by 40. It's about 15 feet off of the house. And that puts it at 90 feet from the wetlands boundary. So in order to get it outside of the 100-foot setback, as the CAC was looking for, we would actually have to move it back about 10 feet, which puts it only 5 feet off of the house. And that's pretty darn close to the house. It's not, for safety's sake, we like to have a decent sized walkway between the house and the pool. You're also going to want to have an area to put some lounge chairs and sitting, different types of things that you can use this patio area between the house and the swimming pool. The town code, the wetlands code, says that we can't put the pool or patio or anything like that seaward of this 75-foot line, which is the vegetative buffer, but that we can put those improvements in the adjacent regulated area, which is that 75 to 100-foot line. This is the area that we can do things. We just have to get a wetlands permit in order to do them. Side yard setbacks. This is A zone. So we've got the 20-foot setback for the swimming pool and the 12.5-foot setback for the patio. All of that complies with town zoning codes. We don't have to worry about anything with going for the ZBA or any type of variances from the code. This, on the northwest side of the property, this is a stairway that was built without benefit of permit by a previous property owner. And I'll show you a photograph here in a second that the original stairway that was on the site came up through the middle of the property here. And at some point in the not too distant past, somewhere between 2001 and 2010, that stairway was taken out, and then the stairway along that northwest property line was put in. That's the stairway that we're looking to remove. To the CAC's comment or question about what we would be planning to do in this area once those stairs come away, and we've got a photograph of this here in a second, it's a very heavily shaded area. So we would probably be looking to plant zoysia grass or something along those lines, something that's drought tolerant and doesn't need full sun, can thrive in a shaded area like that. This area down here, right, just outside of the bulkhead, that's where we're proposing a 15-foot wide non-turf buffer. And again, we've got some slides coming up here in a second to kind of show what we're planning on doing for that area. And in the middle of that, right adjacent to where the dock comes into the bulkhead, we've got an existing deck, wood deck, and small wood retaining walls that are on this deck. That deck predates the town zoning code, so there was no need to get a not zoning code, excuse me, the wetlands code. So there was no need to get a wetlands permit when it was originally constructed. The DEC original permit for the dock as it exists now was from the early 80s. It's the original or the full application information is no longer available at the DEC. So we don't know exactly what was entailed as far as the bulkhead. We've got a rough description of what the dock was permitted to be constructed then in 82. And that at that time is when this patio or this deck, excuse me, was constructed.
Matt, what's the length of that dock, just out of curiosity?
I want to say 120, but I don't have it on here. I can get that for you. I want to say it's 120, I think. Good. Ian, you've got the survey with you, don't you? Yeah.
And the other thing is, I heard you say the pool was 16 feet wide by 40 feet long. Did you mention a depth on the deep end?
Yeah, on the shallow end, it's 4 feet. On the deep end, it's 8 feet. Good. Now, keep in mind where this pool is at a 30-foot elevation.
Yes.
Or 34-foot elevation,
yes.
Excuse me.
Yep.
Groundwater in this area is going to be at about a 2-foot elevation. So one of the things that we look at when we're concerned about the depth of these swimming pools is that we don't want them to get close to groundwater. This thing's got no chance of getting close to groundwater.
Yeah.
Is there a diving board, Matt? Is that why it's got to be 8 foot?
No, there's no diving board.
No diving board.
And I'll actually, before I jump on that,
No diving.
I didn't think so.
And I don't have a dimension.
Okay. But I can get that for you. Excuse me. This is the 2001 aerial off of the town's GIS. And I just bring this up to show you what it was like, what the property looked like when the town wetlands code came into play. You can see there's a boat being stored on that wood deck right there. And you can see that stairway that's coming up basically through the middle of the property, just to the side of, just to the north side of middle of the property.
So when they actually put that other staircase in at the northwest side of the property, did they remove those trees or something? That it looks like it was treed in there.
Yeah, you'll see a picture of it. It's all still there.
Okay.
It's not much of a stairway. I mean, it's not. It's not a substantial thing.
It's a like 3 foot wide type thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
This is a more recent, just to show the change from 2001 to 2010. That deck is still there. The stairway is gone. You can actually get a better feel for where the steep slope is in this in this photograph because of the way that the brown grass is in that area. And then 2020. So basically, just a slightly different rendition of the last one, the 2010 one. Okay, this is the dock looking up at the house. The deck that we're talking about is this deck right here, right in front of you. Bulkhead is in good condition, as either the CAC or the planning board had noted. Just a little bit more detail on that so you can see exactly what it is we're talking about on this deck. And you can actually see in the background, you can see that's the bottom of that stairway that's coming up this side here.
Yep.
And there's a stairway from the top looking down.
Okay.
So it's still plenty of trees around that area. It's about a 3 foot wide stairway.
Is that actually right on, pretty much on the property line?
Yeah, it's just on the inside of the property line. Yeah.
So that thing, that post to the right of that is the property line. I guess it looks like it's like
it's
a foot off of it.
It's close. Yeah. Now this, I put this in here because I wanted you to see what the grade was outside of the house. This is the area where the patio and the pool would end up being. It's kind of hard to see, but that orange flag right there, and there's another one right over here, that's where the pool would start. So between those flags and the house is where that patio area would be. You can see it a little bit better on this photograph. Here's one of the flags, here's the other flag. So this is the area we're talking about for patio, right about 15 feet. So pushing that pool back in 10 feet would bring it to right like this area here. And that's just way too close to the house. This is standing, if I were standing on the edge of the pool coping, getting ready to jump into the pool, this is what would be looking in front of me. So this is looking out toward Cockles Harbor.
Mhm.
You can actually see the flag right there and right there. That's showing the outside boundary of where that, the outside of the pool coping would be on the far side. And this is turning around, looking back at the house from the exact same location. One of the questions the CAC had was on those stone steps that we were looking to put in the middle of the property leading down to the dock. This is what they would be, just slabs set in the native ground.
Okay. Looking
At it from the other direction. The dry stacked retaining wall detail, this is what we're looking at. It's going to be a 4-foot maximum height, and this is going to be just outside of the pool. Let me go back to it.
On the water side of the pool,
Yeah, right, on the water side of the pool.
Right.
So,
because the ground slopes off.
yeah, it's right at where the pool is.
Right.
It goes from that 34, 32-foot contour.
Right.
It has a gentle slope, and then it drops off fairly quickly.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just blast back through to this one here. So that retaining wall is this retaining wall here that just kind of curves down along in front of the pool and the patio. It is 80 feet from the wetlands. So again, something that the wetlands code says we're allowed to build in this area. We just need to get the wetlands permit to do it. And this dark line that kind of comes down from the north and heads over toward the south,
Mhm.
that's what the surveyor put on the survey as where the top of bluff is located at.
Okay.
So it kind of comes up and crosses that retaining wall a little bit right up here to that northwest corner.
Is there going to be a need to backfill the backside of that?
A little bit.
retaining wall?
Yeah, because you're bringing that grade up on the backside a little bit, yeah. Okay, that's that. As far as the plantings are concerned, and I know I'm going to mess these up because I'm not a plant guy, but what we've got is a pink muhly is one of the things that they're looking to put in, a tufted hair grass, that, and then a blue joint. So those are the kinds of plantings they're looking to plant in that 15-foot wide buffer on either side of that wood deck that's going to be redone. So right now it's just turf grass. So we would have these non-turf buffers. They're going to help minimize any type of overland flow that's coming down off of that steep bank. This is going to slow it down so that it doesn't spill over into the surface waters. It's also providing the same service that any other non-turf buffer would be, of not having the tendency to use any type of treatment that you would otherwise use on turf grass. To a couple of the other CAC's points, we talked about the fact that moving the pool back in 5 feet, really, it wouldn't get us out of the wetlands buffer. Moving it in 10 feet gets it too close to the house. The retaining wall, the non-turf buffer, the stepping blocks, we can certainly add the silt fence along the areas that are going to be disturbed, where that where the existing stair is going to be taken out. That's not a problem at all. We've already got silt fence planned for the site anyway, to be on the seaward side of where the retaining wall is going to be constructed. The vegetation at that step, those stairs, again, probably zoysia grass would be in that location. And then the depth of the pool being 4 feet on the shallow end, 8 feet on the deep end. To the design of the pool, what we're looking for is a cartridge filter. When we looked at it, we said, all right, from a wetland standpoint, what's the best way to make this thing work? So the cartridge filter, so we're not losing water to backwash and to cleaning out of the filter system. An automatic cover. So that automatic cover is going to keep in, reduce the overall loss to.
Stop sharing.
Okay. The overall water loss will be reduced by about 90%, as with all these automatic covers. And then the using a disinfection by salt cell. So it's an extremely environmentally friendly design for the pool. Other than that, we've got the patio around it is going to be set permeable, set in sand. So you're not adding any, other than the pool itself, you're not adding any real impermeability to the site.
Is the customer compliant, agreeable to removing the irrigation?
Yeah, they're planning to remove the irrigation.
Okay. So then the only other issues we have are the CACs. Howard, did you want to talk?
Well,
Why don't you come up here, please? Could you come up here, Howard?
I'm Howard Johansson. I'm on the Conservation Advisory Committee. And Matt has addressed all the 7 points that we had. The only thing I didn't understand is these slate blocks going up the stairs. What is the riser of that? I mean, you got to put it in a step like this.
The solid blocks.
The riser and the step.
There is no riser.
It's just a slab of stone.
Yeah.
Take a little bit of the turf out.
Right.
Just the minimal amount. And then put the slab of stone on the ground.
What's the height between one slab of stone and the next?
I see what you're getting at. Can I share
Yeah.
this for a second?
If you show that slide back again, you could, yeah. They're not together is what, it's not like a
More of a
regular,
natural, yeah.
it's more of an, yes.
Because of the steepness, it's something that will help one from sliding all the way down. Yeah.
Right, like that.
Something that.
Correct.
Right.
So in between each one of those slabs, there'll just be grass.
Yeah, here you
I
go.
didn't know if it's chopped in.
Yeah, you see, so it's just, it's that block. And what it does is, right, exactly.
Not a steep rise.
So it gives you a couple of vantage, a good, steady, solid points. It's not an actual stair.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not running down the hill.
But I wanted to know, we were concerned about the excavation.
Yeah.
Between
Mhm.
the steps. So, okay, so erosion control.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other item we had was on the pool. We're very adamant about keeping that.
You may need to come closer to the mic.
25-foot space, the adjacent vegetated space. And whatever we can do to get that. I know we could permit it, but we're sort of moving away from permitting that space that will cost. And so we said originally, well, maybe we could go like 5 feet from the house. And I know that's pretty close, but don't forget that deck on the back of that house is a patio too. So it's not a drop off or anything. You're like stepping down one step or something. So I think we would be very strong and recommend bringing out of the 25-foot adjacent vegetated area.
It's actually going to be 18 inches from the deck to the patio.
That's what it is now, right?
No, it's
Did you go back to that picture, Matt, where you show the side view where the
Yeah.
where it is and where it might be?
Photograph? Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So right now, this line here is approximately, and this is just me with the tape measure, so this isn't a surveyor putting this out there. This is about 15 feet from the front of this covered porch from the front of the house. So if we brought it in another 10 feet, that would bring it approximately to this line right here.
But what I was saying, and what you is that there's an 18-inch step down from this pattern.
right now it's 8 or 9 inches. We are excavating the area and making it 18 inches.
Why? It's an architectural item. I don't follow that too much. In excavate it, be fine. And just put pool down.
creating a seating platform on the deck and keeping one who's here on the deck, looking out, looking over the furniture in front of you. It also allows us to, we're going to be taking some of that material that we're regrading right off the deck, and that's what we're using the backfill for the retaining wall. It allows us also to not build such a large retaining.
Okay.
Mhm.
So it minimizes the amount of,
So-
actually minimizes the amount of work.
So we're sacrificing footage in our adjacent vegetated buffer so people can see over their chairs.
No. Because the
Is
elevation,
there any real reason, say, for raising that grade between the pool or taking out the grade between the pool and existing?
We're not planning on raising the grade. We're planning on dropping the
Right.
grade and then using the fill so we don't have to build this larger retaining wall. That way, we keep the excavations smaller for that retaining wall, and we're using the material on site, and we're actually going to be pulling some material off site when we excavate for the drywall rings, required drywall rings, and for future sanitary system and for the swimming.
All right, I understand what you're doing. My point is we're trying to keep adjacent vegetated area as much as we can, because that's the last filtering system we have before it goes into the bay.
I'm a little confused the way you're explaining it, Howard. The way you're explaining it, I'm thinking the vegetative buffer at the bottom.
No, up at the top of the pool between the house.
Yeah.
He's talking from 75 to 100.
No, I understand what you're saying, but the way, when you're saying the buffer and to prevent it from going into the water, that's really the purpose of the vegetative buffer by the water.
That's more for the runoff.
Yeah.
That is the water in the ground coming down, picking up all the nitrates from the fertilizer, not from the surface water coming down.
well,
I think if we,
to that point, if you had less pool in this area and more grass, if you're saying it's nitrates from fertilizing the lawn, that's more nitrates fertilizing the lawn. I know, we're doing it, we're not going to. So you're the point that, and I don't want to belabor this too much, but if we moved everything 100 feet away,
Correct.
we would be exceedingly close to the house.
Mm-hmm.
The town code says we are well within our rights to build within this 75 to 100 foot line. What Ian has done is he's prepared a design plan that gives us a usable area here between the house and the pool and minimizes the amount of coverage within that adjacent area. And on a third benefit, minimizes the height that this retaining wall needs to be. So it's a trifecta of good in this design based on it being in this location. If we moved it closer to the house, that's not a usable area, and that's a taller retaining wall. That just doesn't make sense from a design perspective.
Ian, can you explain, could you come up, the difference between the 75-foot buffer and the 100-foot buffer?
So the 75, it's my understanding from when the wetlands code was put into place, it was based, the 75-foot line is the most restrictive criteria that the DEC subjects an applicant to. The town at the time were up against contractors building or not building in that setback, or leaving construction debris and not putting in silt fencing. And so they decided to add this adjacent 25 feet buffer, not to limit construction, but so that if someone's building close to the 75-foot line, that town would have some control, some more review, and can ask for other things like the cartridge filter, salt water, pool cells, automatic pool cover, and permeable patios, and other kinds of mitigation factors that you wouldn't be able to previously. But it was not to restrict construction. in the adjacent regulated area, the 75 to 100 foot setback. That was my understanding of when the law was in 2000 of what the intent was.
So it'd be a more regulated area, not restricted.
It's a more regulated area that would require then applicants come to you to, and you have the ability to ask for more mitigating elements to their design, and the town can then more closely follow the items that ask the town or the building department to go and check in on the silt fencing and more closely follow what's going on.
I mean, if you were building a brand new house on the property, everything could go in that direction and it would all fit. The fact is that you're not. The house is remaining exactly where it is. The pool is going on the south side of the house, which gets the sun pretty much all day long. And it faces south and west, so you're going to get that constant sun. You know, that's the difference.
The house was built in 93 or 98, and that predates the wetlands code itself.
Right.
It was sufficiently held back. There's a letter of non-jurisdiction on this property based on the existence of the early bulkhead that predated the EECs of 1977.
Right.
Yeah. And then the new owner corrected all the code violations.
They bought it and there was numerous violations. The shed was too close to the property line. There was a 4-foot fence in the front yard privet hedge that was 6 feet or 8 feet. It was actually just cattle fencing, but it was a violation since the house was built. An application was made to the ZBA in the early 2000s, and the ZBA turned them down, and still the fence wasn't cut back. So the new homeowner took care of that. There was some roofing done without permits, and we made sure that was obtained. There were some open permits that were closed out. We closed those out. And now we're taking out the stair, the wood stair on the side of the property line that's built without permits.
Yeah. Albert?
I just in support of Howard's comments, maybe we need a town code revision to be respectful of the 100-foot area. I mean, there's 2 red lines on every survey that we see. And in the midst of climate change, yeah, this is on an elevated area, but in some cases we're in lowland, and maybe we need to start to respect that and look seriously at that 100-foot line. You know, we know we have sea level rise. We know we're going to put pressure on the saltwater freshwater interface with that. It's going to come with that. This is obviously an elevated thing, as you said, about 34 feet, but nonetheless, it's something I think we should be seriously considered and be respectful. We look at those lines as they're just 7,500 foot, but maybe we need to start to look seriously at that 100-foot line. You know, some buildings, there is no chance to do that in their locations. I mean, we just had one recently. What was it? The Pangleish down in Turcom's Neck. I mean, it was a very odd piece of property that was on the water, but they did move the house back. They did shifted it a little bit. And they made some concessions, but if we can get out of the 100-foot line, I think that would be prudent and smart.
Actually, if I could, and one of the reasons I think that we have that 100-foot line is essentially for exactly what Albert's talking about, in that it gives the town board the opportunity to consider factors like what the height of the property is, what the height level of the property is, how close it is, what the uniqueness of that particular property, what characteristics should be considered. So I think that's part of the.
Bob, we hear often, well, you're setting precedent. To me, each case is an individual.
Well, yeah, specifically with property, because each piece of property is unique. One other thing in this particular thing, I don't know, there's no specific regulations with regard to in-ground pools. I know with regard to above ground pools, though, the NFPA recommends they be at least 10 feet from a house. And a lot of municipalities will have rules as to how close a pool can be to a structure. Most are in the 20-foot range.
What is the, just I'm digressing on that, whatever. What's the accessory structure? What's that comprised of?
As a one bedroom and a sitting area. Above
The bathroom?
yes.
Yeah.
Bathroom. What is the IA system that's going in?
It's going to be a 6-bedroom system, Sen 7, and a 16-foot deep fishing pool.
Any other question? Any comments from the audience? Okay, we'll close that hearing.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
wait.
Wait, who's it?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I'm a little concerned about this because I'm just looking at the wetlands code here and it says it's the policy of the chapter that there shall be no net loss of wetlands due to development or other activities. And this is more than just like squeezing a pool in. This is doing an entire construction of a retaining wall and everything. It's more construction than I think this policy of the town code permits for.
I think it's like five.
This seems like this is going to become a habit, and I'm not sure it's a good idea.
First of all, it's not in the wetlands. Second of all, I think it's like a 5 foot into the restricted area, isn't it?
About 10 feet into the restricted
The
area.
retaining wall is going almost 70. It's going right up to the 75-foot marker. Looking at those plans I just saw, that's very close to the 75-foot and going the full length of the property almost. So I'm not sure we understand the full, what do I want to say, impact that this is having in this area.
And to address Pam's point, the retaining wall that's going side to side of the property is about 80 feet from the wetlands. So the wetlands are 80 feet seaward of this. So where she's got a very good point that any of these applications can't diminish or reduce the wetlands on site. This work is 80 feet away from the on site. So it by no means in any way, shape, or form diminishes the wetlands. It's 80 feet away.
But it's still within the wetlands boundary of the town code of the 100 feet.
So it's in the regulated area. The regulated
That's
area
right.
and the wetlands boundary are two completely different things.
So where's the regulation here? I guess maybe that's my question. If you allow a retaining wall to go the expanse of the property, that's not any regulation. That's not, I don't see that.
I'm not really sure what the question is.
I'm not either. I'm a little confused.
You know what the question is?
I think what she's asking is there a town code requirement or something that allows someone to put a retaining wall across their property, and there is no code.
It's the regulated area for what intent then? What's the regulation that we're imposing in this regulated area of 25 feet off of the vegetative buffer? Because if we don't define that, I don't know how you can go forward with anyone who's trying to do anything within that 25-foot regulated area.
There's not a particular regulation within that 20-foot area, or within the 25-foot adjacent regulated area. Essentially, the regulation is that if you're going to develop anything within that area, you've got to come before the town board for the town board to analyze the situation and determine for that particular project whether what you're doing is appropriate.
Again, I have to ask then, what is regulated within that regulated area?
Again, I'm not sure I understand what the question is. The only part
the regulated area. It's been designated as a regulated area for what purpose then?
So
I mean, and Mr. McDonald just said that, okay, the guys used to make construction areas and leave debris in that area, and then that's why this code became what it is. But then what's the regulation in that area? That's my question.
The only regulation is that it requires you to come in here for this permitting process. There's not a particular you must do X or you must do Y if you are, constructed something within that area. It's just that you need to come before the town board and have them review your project and have them determine if you need to make any types of concessions or if you need to restrict the development somehow or another. But it's ultimately up to the board. There's not a specific regulation.
Then the purpose of that line would be to do what? It really sounds like there's an empty space then in our town code again. That's like, wow, that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. I'm sorry. It just,
The way I see it is the DEC regulates it to 75 feet. The town chose to regulate it to 100 so that if they feel that they need to be a little stronger than the DEC, they can impose more restrictions.
Right. So I'm wondering what is going to precipitate that kind of action to happen then.
Well,
what kind of construction is going to be allowed that would precipitate you to then regulate it further? Where's the drawing line on this? What are we regulating? I mean, it's one thing to have to put a patio out there to enjoy the view. It's another thing to add a retaining wall and a pool and stairs and all of this
construction. We've had applicants move houses back further. We've had them change their building footprint. We've had them change plans for their projects to get out of that buffer zone. So again, this is why I asked about the precedents, because each project is separate and you have to look at each one individually.
So regulation in this area for this applicant doesn't apply?
It's not that the regulation doesn't apply. We're looking at the proposed plan and what detrimental effect would it have in that additional 25 feet.
It's similar to site plan review, where you have to come before the board and I'm just looking at like what requires a permit within the adjacent vegetative buffer. So if you've got an existing structure on a lot without a bulkhead and you're reconstructing it but not expanding it, you still have to come for a permit review, just so that there's another set of eyes on it. And this is where I always call the horse trading comes into play. Like, it's not that you're not allowed to do it. It's just that we get to review the site plan and see whether or not we have any overall concerns with it. And if we do, then we ask the applicant to do something different before we grant the permit.
Howard,
yes,
why don't you come up?
Like this the DEC made this rule probably 20, 25 years ago. And I think they've allowed other towns to be stricter on these, all of the Hudson and all of that, New York State. And I think I don't know about how this was set up by the town, and I agree, every site is different. And we have to look at each one, and we do. We don't take it as a buffer plan for everything. But in this case, it's a pool. Maybe instead of 12 foot, make it 10 foot. You're cutting less of our adjacent buffer out, vegetative buffer. Whatever we can do to save as much as we can. And we didn't address it with a pergola on A2. I don't know if that can be brought back, I think.
We bring it back closer to the house, it starts competing with the roof over the porch, and the pergola is open. It doesn't like catch water, the water goes right through it. So why would I want to move one roof structure very close to the next when there's ample room to be open? And that's not a roof structure, it's a lattice structure. So I'm not quite sure what shifting the pergola, what benefit there is in shifting the pergola.
That the footings wouldn't be in the 25-foot adjacent vegetated area. I just think the town, when you consider these things, that,
I think Albert makes a very good point, Howard, that we need to really go back and look at the 100-foot, 75-foot, and what was the intent and what is the purpose and how do we address it?
I mean, it's going to be an issue. It's
it is.
it's going to be an increasing issue that we're going to need to address. I mean, basically, the Davies want what they want. There is logistics. They want their pool there. They want the patio, the retaining walls necessary with the slope. The pergola, they like where it is. The day needs to come where we can restrict those things,
Right.
you know, in given locations.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, yes, restrict them for the better good of the ecology of the area, not just for the sake of doing it.
Well, I think that's certainly within your power at this time.
Right.
If you look at something and decide that there's going to be some actual detrimental effect.
Right. Right. Which is, I think, the way we've been doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, not just because it happens to fall within one side of a line or another. You know, you have to, right now that you're required to look at it and determine whether or not there's an actual problem created by something.
All right, my suggestion is going to be that we act on this one and make this a priority, put on
it's
things to do list.
Yeah, it's code section 129-2. That's what we should all review.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Just in closing, Pam, when these committees meet, they're extensions of the town board. These are people that, like on a CAC, that are deeply committed to the environment. And that's why they are the Conservation Advisory Council. And they make recommendations, as they did in almost every application. They make recommendations back to the town board, to the builders, to the architects, and to the property owners. A lot of it is negotiations. A lot of it is do we get everything that we ask for? No, but I will tell you that this town board has been very sensitive to the fact that we are trying to move that pendulum back and become more conservative. But as the supervisor just said, every one of these projects is unique and they are different. The fact that people come to you now removing staircases that are on property lines, the fact that they're putting a retaining wall up and spending that kind of money to prevent water runoff, the fact that they're limiting a size of a pool, putting a pool cover on, the fact that they're putting in an IA system, that there are a lot of things that are asked for them to spend additional amounts of money and time and energy in order to conform to trying to make it the best possible scenario and still be fair. Now, not everybody views fairness the same way. Some people say that there should be no negotiation, that 75 foot should be sacrosanct, and that the 25-foot buffer, vegetated buffer area, there should be no exceptions. There is no room for negotiations. If that's the way you want to go, then the town code has to be changed. And we would, but be prepared that there are properties, because of their unique shape, size, elevations, and their proximity to wetlands, that there's a lot that goes into this. We could never, as a town board, do this on our own. We rely very heavily on these committees to be able to make intelligent recommendations back to us and to try to negotiate in fairness, to try to come up with a plan that can meet the needs. Again, is that pendulum moving? I believe it is. Has it moved as far enough as some people would like? The answer would be no. You're going to have a change in the town board in the next matter of a couple months. It'll be interesting to see how the new town board responds to these changes and whether they're willing to become more strict in reference to the 75 and the 25-foot vegetated buffer and going out to 100 feet. So that remains to be seen. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
The only other thing is I didn't see the CAC memo. So can you forward that at some point?
Sure.
Yeah, I've been looking and I can't find it. So when we start to consider this.
I'll make you a copy before you leave.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to close that hearing and open the hearing on the Rosenberg stake mooring and pulley application. Dot?
Okay. The application of Daniel W. Rosenberg, 21 Lakeview Drive, to install a stake mooring and pulley system in Menancha Creek at Lesser Street, 75 feet west offshore into 3 feet of water at a location designated as latitude 41.058806 degrees north and longitude 72.340904 degrees west.
Jim?
Yep, WMAC met on September 13th, voted on this application and approved it. There was no major problems with this.
That's the big hill going down, right?
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is.
Jim, I sat in on that meeting, and one of the comments I heard from one of the members was, oh, there's plenty of room for stake mooring and pulleys there, but there's not plenty of room for parking there. So is that part of the discussion when they?
That's a good question. I don't know whether they.
I mean, this is only the second one there, so obviously there's enough parking for two. But to make that statement, well, there's plenty of room there for more. I think we have to make sure that that's part of the formula going forward, that there's room for cars.
There would be parking for more than 2 cars.
Yeah.
It would be in front of people's houses. It wouldn't be.
I mean,
Steep hill that comes up close to the area off the road. It's steep.
the same thing is true if everybody, the lagoon in Silver Beach, if all 10 boats go out the same day and all 3 pulley moorings and you have 13 cars in there, doesn't suit 13 cars, but that rarely happens. Have we ever had 5 or 6 cars down there? Yes. But I think, that's something that I'll bring up in the future and look at.
So you said the vote was unanimous?
Yeah, vote yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this one? Okay, we'll close that hearing and open the hearing on a local law regarding tax override. Dot?
A proposed local law entitled Override of the Tax Levy Limit to wit, be it enacted by the town board of the town of Shelter Island as follows. Section 1, legislative intent. It is the intent of this local law to override the limit on the amount of real property taxes that may be levied by the town of Shelter Island, County of Suffolk, pursuant to General Municipal Law 83-3-C, and to allow the town of Shelter Island, County of Suffolk to adopt a town budget for A, town purposes, B, fire protection districts, and C, any other special or improvement district governed by the town board for the fiscal year 2022 that requires a real property tax levy in excess of the tax levy limit as defined by General Municipal Law 3C. Section 2, authority. This local law is adopted pursuant to subdivision 5 of General Municipal Law Section 3C, which expressly authorizes the town board to override the tax levy limit by the adoption of a local law approved by a vote of 60% of the town board. Section 3, tax levy limit override. The town board of the town of Shelter Island, County of Suffolk is hereby authorized to adopt a budget for the fiscal year 2022 that requires a real property tax levy in excess of the limit specified in General Municipal Law, Section 3C. Section 4, severability. If any clause, sentence, paragraph, subdivision, or part of this local law or the application thereof to any person, firm, or corporation or circumstance shall be adjusted by any court of competent jurisdiction to be invalid or unconstitutional, such order or judgment shall not affect, impair, or invalidate the remainder thereof, but shall be confined in its operation to the clause, sentence, paragraph, subdivision, or part of this local law, or in its application to the person, individual, firm, or corporation, or circumstance directly involved in the controversy in which such judgment or order shall be rendered. Section 5, effective date. This local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State.
Okay. I just want to make a little statement on this. You know, the state puts a cap of 2% on the budgets. And I every year I've wondered, how do these other towns stay under the 2% when I know, you know, with our small budget, how hard it is to do. And I think the reality is we have a very true, realistic, honest number. We don't fudge our revenues. We don't, you know, lessen our expenses and then have huge capital funds or or fund balances that we take it from it after the fact. You know, our numbers are real, they're accurate. We try to keep it as low as we can. Right now, we're looking at 3.9% increase. And quite honestly, that's as close as 2%, I think, as we could possibly get and address the needs of the town. So I know sometimes you'll hear people say, well, how come we always go over the tax cap? And I think it's because we're being honest and we're doing as bare bone budget as we can. I don't see any fluff in here, in our proposals. I don't know, Amber, do you want to?
No, I agree. It's a good budget.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any questions, comments? Ambrose, you good? Okay. Okay. We're going to close that hearing and open the hearing on the Rosamelia mooring application. Dot?
Okay, the application of Stephen Rosamelia, 22 New York Avenue, to install a mooring in Couples Harbor at the Stonewall Town Landing in the space formerly occupied by the Stefan C3313 mooring, located at latitude 41.8570 degrees north and longitude 72.31273 degrees west.
Christina, did we approve that one a while back? Yeah, the meeting before last, right? Yeah, we did. Okay, I'm pretty sure. I was pretty sure. That's a new application for a private mooring. It went through unanimously, except for Mike Englund, who was the installer. So I believe it went through like 601 or 501. Yeah, okay. And those coordinates are correct.
Any comments on this one? Okay, we'll close that hearing and reconvene the public hearing on the proposed local law entitled Clarification of Charitable Noise Exceptions. This was one we had the hearing and the discussion came up as to whether the charitable event should be the sole event on the property that night or the primary event. And we had a discussion that night. We had discussion at work sessions. And this is how we decided on it. I'll read the part. In order to qualify for the exception, the charity must be a registered tax-exempt corporation, a New York State registered charity, or a municipal corporation or department or other town-approved function. And the principal purpose of the event must be support of the charity. So two things. One, we added the or other town-approved function because it came up, well, what if somebody's doing a fundraiser for someone who had a horrific accident or there's a medical need for a family? So that would be something the town board could approve. And the second was we went with the principal purpose of the event as opposed to the sole purpose of the event. Any other comments?
No, and the event must raise, I think we said $1,000 for the name charity.
Yep.
The only thing I said about this thing is a lot of times we get them late. We seem to, people come in like, yeah, the event this weekend. Is there some way we can put a suggested time limit in like 14 days prior to the event or 10 days prior to the event? It just seems to me like a bunch of them have, oh, by the way, we're meeting Tuesday, it's Friday night, we're doing this event. It really kind of puts you in a, I think if you're going to have a charitable event, then 10 days prior to or 14 days prior to the event, you should have the application in for approval or before then.
Yeah, I don't know. Has that been an issue? Getting late applications?
Not now, not this one.
Yeah. All right.
You do in the spring and early summer.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather we not put it into the law,
okay.
but we in policy try and do that. And applicants could always risk that they'll get turned down if they give it to us too late.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they come Tuesday and want it for Friday. That's what's pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's happened. I remember on 2 occasions where that's happened.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the first one that we turned down because of that reason will prompt everybody else to follow suit.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, the one thing I just wanted to remind the board about is with regard to the $1,000 limit, that would eliminate events like the thank you event that you just had because they didn't really raise any money. And that's something you might at some point in the future might want to consider.
You're talking about the volunteer celebration day at Wade's Beach, where we
right, because you weren't raising any money there. So it wouldn't have fallen within the exemption.
But we still had to apply for,
So,
yeah, in the permit, we still asked that the fact that we were going to have live band, there. But again, we weren't playing at night. We were playing, from 2 to 2:30 to 6:30 in the afternoon.
No, it says municipally sponsored or sanctioned functions or charitable events.
yeah, but,
So that was municipally sponsored.
but it would still have that $1,000 limit.
No, noise generated by
Okay, so that's
municipally sponsored or sanctioned functions or charitable events designed to promote blah, blah, blah. So it's or sanctioned functions or charitable events.
Yeah, and that one did promote the,
Right.
I think that it goes on. I think the monetary thing was a separate paragraph, though, I believe.
Yeah, it is. At the bottom.
Yeah, no, I just read it then.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, no comments. We'll close that hearing and we will reconvene the hearing on the local law entitled Revised Town Code regarding the home improvement contractor's license. This is a lengthy document. I'm not going to read it. We had a public hearing on it. We opened it to a couple of conversations during work sessions. We noticed the contractors to come and speak. We had no comments to come and speak. So I think we're going to close the hearing on that one. Okay, we'll close that hearing and we'll reconvene the regular board meeting. And Amber's going to hand out the resolution.
Jim, you got the first one.
Right.
Second.
Want me to begin?
Yep.
Okay.
What about what you do in Roseland?
Get there. We'll get there.
Okay. Whereas, let me start. Whereas Daniel W. Rosenberg of 21 Lakeview Drive has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to install a stake, mooring, and pulley system in Menantic Creek at Lesser Street, 75 feet west of offshore into 3 feet of water at a location designated as latitude 41.058806 degrees north and longitude 72.340904 degrees west. And whereas a public hearing was duly held on the 22nd day of October 2021 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition, and whereas all interested persons were heard in favor or opposition, now therefore be it resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized to issue a permit for the aforementioned installation. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Whereas a public hearing was duly held on the 22nd day of October on a proposed local law entitled Override of the Tax Levy Limit. And whereas all interested persons were heard in favor of or opposition, now therefore be it resolved that local law number 9-2021 entitled Local Law entitled Override of the Tax Levy Limit is hereby adopted to wit. Be it enacted by the town board of the town of Shelter Island as follows. Section 1, legislative intent. It is the intent of this local law to override the limit of the amount of real property taxes that may be levied by the town of Shelter Island, County of Suffolk, pursuant to General Municipal Law 3C, and to allow the town of Shelter Island, County of Suffolk, to adopt a town budget for A, town purposes, B, fire protection districts, and C, any other special or improvement district governed by the town board for the fiscal year 2022 that requires a real property tax levy in excess of the tax levy limit as defined by Municipal Law 3-C. Section 2, authority. This local law is adopted pursuant to subdivision 5 of General Municipal Law 3C, which expressly authorizes the town board to override the tax levy limit by the adoption of a local law approved by a vote of 60% of the town board. Section 3, tax levy limit override. The town board of the town of Shelter Island, County of Suffolk, is hereby authorized to adopt a budget for the fiscal year 2022 that requires a real property tax levy in excess of the limit specified in General Municipal Law 3C. Section 4, severability. In any clause, sentence, paragraph, subdivision, or part of this local law, or the application thereof to any person, firm, or corporation or circumstance shall be adjusted by any court of competent jurisdiction to be invalid or unconstitutional. Such order or judgment shall not affect, impair, or invalidate the remainder thereof, but shall be confined in its operation to the clause, sentence, paragraph, subdivision, or part of this local law, or in its application to the person, individual, firm, or corporation or circumstance directly involved in the controversy in which such judgment or order shall be rendered. Section 5, effective date. This law shall take effect immediately upon signing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Whereas Stephen Rosamilia, 22 New York Avenue, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to install a mooring in Cuckoos Harbor at the Stone Wall Town Landing in the space formerly occupied by Stefan C. 3313 mooring located at latitude 41.8570 degrees north, longitude 72.31273 degrees west. And whereas a public hearing was duly held on the 22nd day of October 2021 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or opposition. Now therefore be it resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized to issue a permit for the aforementioned installation. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That's yours. I gave, that was the next one.
Oh, that was the next one?
Yes.
You want me to read this whole thing?
Nope.
Okay.
Sorry.
Because it's 10 pages. Okay. I'll read the very beginning of it. Yeah. Whereas a public hearing was duly held on the first day of October 2021 on a proposed local law entitled Revision Town Code, referenced home improvement contractors, and continued on October 22nd, 2021. Whereas all interested persons were heard in favor of or in opposition, now therefore be it resolved that local law number 10, 2021, entitled Revised Town Code, reference home improvement contracts, to wit, be it enacted by the town board of the town of Shelter Island as follows. And it gives section 1, and it goes through, and I'll read the purpose of it. The purpose, it is the intent of this section to establish licensing and standards for home improvement contractors in town of Shelter Island. Then it goes through a series of definitions, starting with building inspector, business, consumer, contract, engages, home improvement contractor, license, owner, person, places of business, residential property, and it goes on with quite a few definitions. Then it gives the application requirements, and there are quite a few of them. And licensing fees, and we've covered those licensing fees. Conditions for license, and the license issued here shall be assignable or transferable. Then goes on to talk about Article 2, disciplinary procedures, the licensing review board. And it talks about the formation and composition of that, their function, talks about procedures, talks about their powers. Then it goes on to suspension or revocation of the license by the town board. Talks about appropriate hearings, automatic suspensions, talks about prohibited acts, deceptive trade practices, which they are stipulated, unconditional trade practice, and then it talks about Article 4, remedies, penalties for the offenses, and it lists A through H, and the effective date shall be effective upon the filing with the Secretary of State. So this document is obtainable through the town clerk's office, probably is online on the town website. So if you care to read through the entire thing, it's a fairly lengthy document, but it is here. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
And I've got the last one. Whereas a public hearing was duly held on the 10th day of September 2021 on a proposed local law 11-2021 entitled Clarification of Charitable Noise Exceptions, and continued on October 22nd, 2021. And whereas all interested persons were heard in favor of or in opposition, now therefore be it resolved that local law number 11-2021 entitled Clarification of Charitable Noise Exceptions, to wit, be it enacted by the town board of the town of Shelter Island as follows. Section 1, Section 92-6A is hereby amended to read as follows. Noise generated by municipally sponsored or sanctioned functions or charitable events designed to promote the health, safety, or welfare of the inhabitants of Shelter Island. Any event on public or private property, including any business property that seeks an exception from this chapter, must obtain town board approval for such exception prior to the beginning of the event. Each charitable event shall require a separate approval. In order to qualify for the exception, the charity must be a registered tax exempt corporation, a New York State registered charity, or a municipal corporation or department or other town approved function, and the principal purpose of the event must be support of the charity. The event must raise at least $1,000 for the named charity. Section 2, effective date. This local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, at this time, I'll open the meeting to the public. I just want to make a quick public announcement that Tuesday, I think we mentioned Tuesday, that we are going to have another pod at the school for the booster shot for the COVID vaccinations, and we'll be online with that tomorrow. People will be able to sign up for it. Amber's been working on it. Amber, you want to just speak to it real quick?
Yeah, it'll be on the town website. It's a very simple sign up process. It'll be a banner at the top. 9 a.m. is when we'll have it live. And there's a section to read ahead of time. It's going to be on Thursday, November 9th from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Shelter Island School, Stony Brook Southampton Hospital. They're bringing us the Pfizer BioNTech booster shots. And before you register, just bear in mind that even though it's Pfizer, according to the CDC, you can mix and match the vaccines. So read the CDC guidance. We've got a link to that for you. Your first dose, if you got Moderna or Pfizer, had to have happened on or before April 25th, 2021. And if you received the Johnson & Johnson, it has to have been received on or before August 26th. But this is all going to be on the website. And very important, bring your vaccination card with you because your booster dose will be added to that card. And like, we really need people to make a really concerted effort to find their vaccination cards, because a new one can be prepared on site, but it will hold up the process for everybody else trying to get through getting their vaccinations that day. So we want to have everybody just be able to hand their card in.
I think we have just under 600, 597 or something.
Yeah.
And we do expect those to fill up pretty fast because we had 2 pods of 500 each. So some people have gone off to get their boosters, but if you're going to do it, sign up early.
And we will, once the 600 slots are filled, we will set up a site to take in alternates, a backup list, so that if we find out that somebody doesn't show or someone gets there and they didn't check and make sure that they are eligible to receive it in some fashion, or they got their vaccination after those cutoff dates, it may open up a spot or 2, but it'll be on a first come, first serve kind of basis. And
so it's strictly Pfizer, right?
yes.
Okay. And when you bring that document, you want to bring the original, not a copy, the original document. Okay, that they handed you out when you got the first and second vaccine, if you got Pfizer or Moderna.
Yeah, and some people may have laminated their cards just so that it makes it, more sturdy or durable. They can deal with that, and that will, having that laminated card is more helpful than not having the card at all.
Okay. Ambrose, any questions?
Good, Jerry, thank you.
Okay. Julia, any questions? Julia?
No, thanks. All good.
Oh,
Okay.
Julia, tomorrow morning, I will send you a link. So if you want to post on the Gazette, and I've already talked to Ambrose before the meeting, I'll give you the links to the town website with the information so that you can post it there as well, please.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Have a nice weekend, everyone.